Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7:01 and the date is October 8th, 2024. In the absence of Board Chair Rob Delich, we will elect an interim chair at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to have Ben Lockman be the, what's the term? I knew that word. Temporary chair.
Second.
Hey, way to go.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks, everybody. I will chair. Can we roll the rules of the board? I invite everybody to watch a video of the rules of the board.
The case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 23-07-03B, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 23-07-10C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that does not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions pertaining to the specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in a combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the board to the applicant.
Good evening. The board currently consists of 4 members and 2 alternates. The alternates take full part in the discussions and become voting members in the absence of a member or when a member abstains due to a conflict of interest. The members present tonight are Aaron Thomas, Joe Kraus, Paul Isherwood, and alternates Shay Myers for a first meeting. I myself am Ben Lockman, the acting chair in absence of our board chair, Rob Delach. Also present and representing the city are zoning co-director Lance Allison. There's one case on tonight's agenda for a property located at 206 East State Street. The board is required to take a testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak tonight concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm any testimony you present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Our case on the agenda tonight is case number 24-10C at 206 East State Street. The appellant is requesting a conditional use permit in accordance with ACC 23.04.01C3 to allow non-owner occupied short-term rental in a R1 zone. Co-Director Allison, will you please provide us with the brief notes on the case?
Sure. Like you said, the appellant is asking for a conditional use, this is kind of one of the weird cases, the way it's written into the zone. If it was owner occupied, it would be a principally permitted use. Since it's non-owner occupied and on East State Street, it can be a conditionally permitted use. So that's the difference between non-owner occupied in an R1 and an owner occupied in an R1. And in this case, it is on East State Street, which there was an exception made to allow them with a conditional use on East State Street.
Do you often know which other corridors? I know East State is one.
Carpenter, Stimson, and maybe part of Lancaster, and then any R1 zone abutting an R2, R3, or any B zone would also meet the exception.
Does the board have any other questions for Co-Director Allison?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to invite the appellant or their representative to please approach the podium and provide any pertinent testimony or give reason why the request should be viewed favorably.
Please give us your name and your address too. For anyone to come up
Your
and
home,
speak. Yes.
your home address, not the
Yes.
address in question,
Okay.
please.
My name's Taylor Weigel. Our home address is 4090 Fisher Road in Athens, just outside of town.
Feel free to, kind of
Tell us
Okay.
what's going on.
So we originally bought this home almost 18 months ago. Our initial plan was to kind of renovate the home, sell it, but throughout working on it, it's just been he and I. So we put all of the work into it ourselves. We did contract out some gutter work, but aside from that, it's just been us. We've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. We love the community. We love the area, love the home, and we thought keeping it would be pretty awesome. My family lives about 4 or 5 hours northwest of here. Northwest. So when they come down, we have an old farmhouse. We don't really have room for family to stay. I have grandparents, siblings, and it's really difficult for them to find places to stay. So thinking like it would be something good to have for family, like for holidays, birthdays, things like that. Obviously with our daughter. We just had our daughter's birthday. It was actually on homecoming. So family drove down and drove back home. 4 hours down and 4 hours back. That includes my almost 80-year-old grandparents because it was really difficult to find somewhere to stay locally. Another thing is we're eventually going to be building a home on our property. And the hope would be that we have old beams in the home. We would like to salvage them if we could have another place to stay in the meantime. That would be another use for the home. Yeah, we love it. I've spent a lot of nights. I'm also in grad school, home by myself with her, work full time. Just don't want to see it go.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
That's about it.
Thank you. After we close the floor.
You think, even before Jack does?
Yeah, okay. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor of this request?
My name's Nathan Neese. Married to Taylor. She's my wife. We bought the house together. A couple things that I want to say is, we both live locally, obviously here in Athens. We've worked on that. I've worked on the house. Taylor's worked on the house solely over the summer. If you're familiar with 206 East State Street, if you've looked at it, prior to us buying the house, it literally was, you wouldn't have seen the house because it was overgrown with bamboo. And there's actually even more bamboo around in the adjacent properties that still needs to be eradicated. And so, it's one of those things that I take a lot of pride in the work. We re-sided the house, re-roofed the house, everything. So when you put that kind of blood, sweat, and tears literally into the house, you don't want to see it go that quickly and that easily. I'm a full-time school counselor at the high school, so that's my full-time job. And this is kind of something that, and Taylor is a nurse for Athens City County Health Department. So we're both working for the community, both public servants. And so and this is something that we do in our spare time just to kind of keep us sharp. So appreciate you guys' time and just wanted to give my 2 cents too. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
No?
No, I think after everybody. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Jack, please state your name and address.
Yes, sir.
Please take your time.
Thank you. My name's Jack Stauffer. I live on Elmwood Place, which is in the Near East Side, and I'm here to address this situation. I'm not a good public speaker, so I'm going to read this. I'm here to help secure our R1 neighborhoods. As some of you may remember, I have been opposed to short-term rentals in an R1 zone from its inception. I remain strongly opposed to a short-term rental in an R1 zone, in this case, non-owner occupied in an R1 zone, which is troublesome to the permanent residents, most of whom are unaware of this hearing this evening. I am here to speak in opposition. I am here to ask you folks to ensure that the R1 residents have their property rights and quiet enjoyment of their homes. That's homes, not just a house with an address. Why risk all neighborhood quality of life so these folks can supplement their income? I've read the appellant's letter of intent for use. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to read that aloud or if there are other letters, but in any event, this is not about these nice folks. This is about the address, 206 East State Street, whoever might come along afterward, and protecting property rights as they exist now. All the information in their statement and about their family is irrelevant to this hearing. First of all, this hearing is not about this family or its concern. It's about 206 East State and whether it will be in compliance with the Athens City Code, or they will be given special privileges not legal in an R1 neighborhood as passed by Athens City Council. Let me make note of one letter of support from a local real estate agent that I got from the code office today. And when I was at the code office and/or when I called later in the day to verify, they said there was just one letter and that I had it, and this is it. I'm not going to read the whole letter.
Don't read the letter, Jack. I'll be reading the letter.
I won't read the whole letter, but I want to read the first two lines. To whom it may concern, this is from Liz Mall. To whom it may concern, I am writing in support of the request for a short-term rental permit for the home at 206 East State. I am a neighbor and own the property at 118 East State. Let me point out some additional information. 118 East State is not in an R1 zone, but an R3 zone, where short-term rentals are allowed. And Liz has a permit for a short-term rental at that address, which also includes a second address of 118 and a half. Also, more to the point, this letter is written in such a fashion that one could conclude or could get the impression that Liz Mall is a neighbor, as she states. Liz Mall, according to the city code office, actually lives on the edge of town on Elliotsville Road and should not be considered a neighbor, and seems deceptive to call herself a neighbor. The wording is clear but deceiving. I ask you to consider these facts and disregard her letter as a neighbor. After checking with the code office, I found out the conclusion to a case at 269 East State where I was involved, and they were denied a permit. They appealed and showed up with 2 out-of-town attorneys and attempted to run over your decision and threatened to sue. After speaking to Lisa Eliason this morning, it was confirmed that they never filed suit, they sold the property, and our neighborhood integrity was maintained. Another case I became aware of was 3 Patton Street, which was also rejected by this board. And thank you for both of those decisions.
Jeff, can you wrap up?
In a minute. Thank you. Now, if you grant these folks a green light tonight, you would have been unfair to the 2 examples that I just mentioned. They could then attempt to sue the city. But more and most importantly, denying the request would show equal treatment to these applicants and the other examples. Also, this would maintain our current quality of life in the R1 neighborhood as passed by your and my city council. I'll close with this last statement and concern. After speaking with the code office this morning, we have no means of enforcement from the code office. They are only responding to complaints. Our office has no weekend enforcement, and the police department are not in charge of code enforcement. Also, the company the city previously subcontracted for information gathering through the computer supplied no pertinent information. We did not renew with them and have absolutely no way to oversee compliance, and therefore it seems no way to ever get any honest tax collection. Please continue to protect our neighborhoods in R1 as they have in the past and deny this request. As a side note, the code office informs that there is not stated, oh, okay, Lance cleared that up.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
I got one paragraph.
No.
I'm not here to ask to be treated to special privileges. The appellants are asked to make special exception and privileges for them. Please say no, as you have in the past, for the sake of the quality of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Jack, in the future, when we tell you we're done, you're done, you're done. I'm here. I'm saying it to you.
Okay.
I find that rude and
We asked you a couple times, please, sir, to wrap it up. You dismissed us. We're the board.
Protect my property rights, and I apologize if I pissed anybody off.
Good.
Thank you, Jack. The appellant or their representative may offer concluding remarks or rebuttal remarks at this time if you would like, before I close the floor.
I'm not an attorney. I suppose my rebuttal would just be that I think a lot of that talked about all of the bad things that we can bring to the community, and I think that the only thing we have to bring to the community, or the main thing we have to bring to the community, is good. We did talk to all of our neighbors, and they were all so gracious. The work that we've done in that home. So the neighbor, surgeon in Slovenia, the way that we originally met them, they were throwing bamboo and tree branches and limbs on our property because they were so tired of the things coming onto their property and essentially extra work that it was making for them. The conversations that we've had with our neighbors has been, thank you, we appreciate you. And I know that will continue. We haven't put all of the work into that property for it to be harmful to other people. That's never our intent. And also a side note is Nate has experience. When he was living in Cincinnati, he actually worked for a property management company in Cincinnati when he was between bachelor and grad school. So he has pretty significant experience in a city like Cincinnati. And obviously if you drove by the house, you're welcome to come into the house. You can see the work that he is able to do and the vision that we have to keep the neighborhood beautiful and to protect the community. We don't want to harm the community. Like it's upsetting to hear that that's what somebody would really think that we were trying to do. We want to better the community, keep it beautiful. We want to be able to take our child like trick-or-treating there, and we don't live in town. We can't trick-or-treat in our neighborhood. We don't have a neighborhood. We live in the country. But just, things like that are neighbors to the neighbors next to us, they invited us over for coffee and tea. Like, we want to be able to keep those things and not harm the community, so.
What about some of the concerns that he raised? Code doesn't work on the weekends.
Oh.
The police. What is to happen? You have rented it out. We have loud people that are disruptive to the neighborhood, to a concerned neighbor.
So-
What would your condition, as you're asking for, to say appease some of those concerns? What would you be willing to do to offset those concerns?
Absolutely. I appreciate that question.
Sure.
If it were if it was my residence, I have a child and I want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. And if there's somebody up having a party, I'm not going to be very happy. So that was one of the questions that we talked to all of our neighbors was, what are your concerns? The only neighbors that mentioned noise, they had mentioned like there was other avenues calling the police. But first and foremost, every one of our neighbors has our phone number. We are, 5-10 minutes down the road. It's very easy for us to come into town, deal with whatever noise there may be. But I think, the process of it's not going to be a party house. That's 100% everything that we're going to try to avoid. It's going to be families. I just think of so one of our neighbors is a professor at OU, and she talked a lot about professors needing places to stay. Like they're coming into town, they're visiting. Her husband is a professor. He has friends that come into town, having a nice family home for them to come into town. It would be harmful to us because of all the work that we put into it to have a party house. But I think us being close nearby, being able to come in very easily. Like I said, all of our neighbors have our phone numbers.
Well, if that is the case, ma'am, what about going a step further? Giving the code office access to each of your phone numbers for when these emergencies would happen on a weekend. Having you or your husband registered with the police so that when code and so forth isn't available,
and I thought
you still are available for whatever potential problems would happen. Those are things you would both
Absolutely.
happily agree to?
Absolutely, and I thought
Okay.
that was part of the application was they had to have our phone numbers and access to us, so I
I'm just
apologize if they
making
didn't.
it
Okay,
a
gotcha.
public thing as we're saying it, as to what you might
Yeah.
be doing to appease a concerned neighbor. Because a lot of the things that you're saying, ma'am, is just you don't want to, you want good stuff, but I'm trying to get you to say
Yes.
something that would appease a concerned
I would
person. An
love
actual
for them
good
to have
answer.
my phone number, and if there is a single person causing a noise, if they're anything that is disturbing our neighbors, we would be there then. I mean, we're very boring people, and we're home and in bed by 8 o'clock, so we would be there in a heartbeat if somebody was causing a ruckus.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for the?
I have a
appellant?
question. So a lot of what you talked about was like how valuable the home will be to you for your extended family to stay and things like that, and how much love and time you've put into the property, which is great. You know, it's wonderful to see that. But none of that is necessarily relevant to why we would grant you conditional use for a short-term rental. I mean, none of those things, you know, no decision that the board makes takes any of that away.
Sure.
Those things, you know, you can still have your extended family come and stay there whenever you want. You own the property. We can't stop that. We wouldn't want to stop that. So none of that is any, we can't take any of that as relevant to any decision we make regarding the conditional use permit. So can you speak to why is it crucial that you use this as a rental, other than that there is potentially a business for that? So how does that relate?
This is recorded, so it's a little awkward talking about finances, but I think it's pretty obvious that it's difficult to keep a second home. I mean, we work in the public sector. We don't make money. So even if we did it as a long-term rental, it's very difficult to keep the home. I mean, we would still be paying on mortgage. So ultimately what this short-term rental would do would allow us to keep the home.
Okay. But yeah, that's what I was trying to get a sense of. Why? Okay,
Yeah.
to let.
It's not going, yeah, it's not we're not going to get rich off of
No, no,
this.
no.
It's going to pay our mortgage and allow us, and like I said, we're hopeful that we can eventually build a home and stay in town and not have to like rent out a second place or something like that. That would be the most ideal situation and use of it. Obviously, that's not going to be in the next year, but that would be the hope and intent, is we can utilize it for ourselves at some point too.
Okay.
In the scenario where the conditional use permit was not granted, what might happen with the property?
I would probably cry, first of all, because I don't want to lose it. I know you guys don't care about feelings and emotions, but that's probably what would happen first. I would be upset, and then we would have to go back to the drawing board and think of, can we scrimp and scrape and find a way to keep it? And if not, it would probably go up for sale, which is unfortunate because I think there's been multiple people that have approached us, and I would not want that to weigh on this decision, because there are people interested and have point blank asked us if they can purchase it. So it makes me a little weary of saying like we're just going to sell it, because I don't want to, and I know it's going to be a grab for people. It's a beautiful home. It's a beautiful area.
I do want to mention this though.
Well,
Just on that.
just 1 second. I would say we do care. We just can't evaluate
Yeah.
based on,
Yeah.
It has
on emotions,
it has no
unfortunately, right?
influence on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. I want to touch base what she said though too.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
So it goes back to what Jack said. So this is for the people at home too, is that when we grant these variants, it goes with the property address, not the homeowner who came for the variance. So that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people need to understand, that when we do these variants, it's for the property address. So what Mr. Jack brought up in his opposition was, if this house gets sold, that the new owners cannot be as thoughtful as you and not put their number on file or not get a neighbor's their phone number and have a lot of issues going on. So I just wanted to put that out there as you talk about sale and go back to the opposition, kind of what he kind of tied in. But a lot of people that watch, they don't understand that these variants don't go with the property owner, it goes with the property itself.
Well, can I say that if we were to be granted the conditional use, we would not be selling it. We would be keeping this home. That would be what would allow us to keep the home ultimately. So I think, again, I mean, I know that the personal things don't matter to you guys, but if you understand working full-time, being in grad school, being home by yourself with a child, trying to grow a family, that's more time and money than you could ever make in short-term rental, profit from a sale. That's not what we're doing this for. It's more than that. And again, I know that doesn't affect your decision, but it's not about selling it and making it. That's not what this is about. And I just don't want that to be coming across like we're just going to make money and then sell it. And you guys, if you were to grant this conditional use permit, that we would just turn around and sell it. That's 100% not that's not why we're here. This is a lot of stress. Obviously, my daughter fell and busted her face on concrete, and we showed up.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a point of the code that
I understand.
Conditional use or variances do go with properties and don't, as long as, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but as long as they continue to hold a rental permit, this conditional use would be continue.
Unless you put extra conditions on it, yes.
Yep.
What about if we turned you down? Why not rent it long-term?
Like I said, I don't know. We would have to crunch numbers, but I don't know how familiar you are with the house. But we spent a lot of money on it. So
It was a student rental. It was an owner.
It was actually not. That's what I learned. But they were renting it to students, but it was not permitted as a long-term rental.
The people that bought it owned it for how many years?
I don't know.
They were foreign nationals who bought it for their child, who was here for several years and then graduated. They kept it and then rented it. So it is a viable option for the property.
It is, yeah.
That may have been a non-conforming use.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, they did not have a permit.
Yeah, they were not permitted.
Yeah.
You can't rent it until we get a long-term rental permit.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we would be able to get that. But what I'm trying to say is we would still be, like I was telling one of the members, we would still be paying money out of our pocket, out of our paycheck towards a second mortgage if we did a long-term rental. So it would still be significantly expensive for us to keep the home. And we would, like I said, we would have to crunch numbers and find a way to make it work to keep it. But I mean, even with the money that we make, unfortunately, that everybody in town's gonna hear about, our financial situation. But even $1,000 extra a month that we have to pay towards a mortgage, that's a significant amount of money.
Sure.
Are we allowed to? Am I allowed to speak again?
Only if called on by the board, but you're welcome to add something.
So I guess the point of this conversation, I think, should focus on the fact that we have a ordinance, or there's whatever the law is here. That's what we need to talk about here, because there has been an allotment for special circumstances on these streets, and I'll be the first to admit that we bought the property after the new ordinance was made. And so I don't know if you guys can provide this, but I would be curious too as to why, give me some insight onto how that should be interpreted. The fact that there are conditional allowances, permits, or whatever you want to call it, for those 4 streets and the abutting zones to our B1s and R2s and R3s. I think a conversation more about that might get us somewhere here.
That would be with city council, sir.
So you're welcome to. We will evaluate it based on the code, and we'll do that actually just after this. We're just gathering as much information as we can at this point in time. That section of the code is 23.07.02, and it lays out all the different kind of things that the board is to consider around conditional use before granting a conditional use permit. So we're going to move into that next, assuming that you guys don't have anything else to add.
Do you have anything more to add?
Unless there's more questions.
Thank you.
No, you have,
Thank you.
you genuinely have our sympathies. I looked at your house. It's beautiful, the work that you've done. It has nothing to do with what I'm about to vote for.
So at this time, I'm closing testimony from the floor, and the board will now deliberate and render an opinion. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions for the board to discuss?
We just looked at this last month with similar property. It's going to be an ongoing issue, and I will say it on record. I think this is something that need to be reevaluated by City Council, like they did the first time. So,
Just as a reminder, we do.
Does he need to read the letters into
Yeah,
Letters.
we do evaluate these, on an individual basis, and not as a group. Joe, would you read letters that have been submitted for us?
Sure. We received 3, 2 of them are forms. Dear members of the board, I, Shane Thomas, support Nathan and Taylor's application for a short-term rental permit at their home located at 206 East State Street. I believe they will manage the rental responsibly. Signed, Shane Thomas, who lives at 221 East State Street. The other is Slajana Janjantovic and Surgeon Nesek. Pretty good. Dear members of the board, the names in question support Nathan and Taylor's application for a short-term rental permit at their home located at 206 East State Street. I believe they will manage the rental responsibly. And this is at 204 East State Street. This is their direct next-door neighbor. And the other was the letter that Mr. Stauffer read. To whom it may concern, I am writing in support of the request for a short-term rental permit for the home at 206 East State. I am a neighbor and own the property at 118 East State Street. I have known Nathan and Taylor Neese for several years. I know them to be considerate and thoughtful people who will conduct the rental in a very conscientious manner. They are excellent homeowners and have the skills to maintain the home and to conduct the rental with good stewardship and professional business practices. They live and work in the Athens area and will be very hands-on with the property at 206 East State Street. I hope that the request for a short-term rental permit will be approved. If you have any questions or concerns, I am glad to help. Liz Mall Gleason.
Director Allison, have we received any additional communication or letters past those?
Nope, that's it.
Any other board members have had any feedback from the public?
No.
I received a phone call from Alan McMillan, across the street neighbor, voicing an opinion that it's very hard to manage things for noise as he has direct experience as he has an owner-occupied Airbnb.
I actually didn't realize you were saying that. Yes, and he contacted me as well.
Yeah.
Over the same concerns.
As a note to anyone watching, sending in emails to the code office is the preferred way of communicating with the board. We strongly prefer that since it is entered into the record and we can see it, all of us, beforehand. Any additional remarks, thoughts, deliberation from the board?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Do we go through this?
So we're going to go through
think so.
findings.
the findings of fact for the conditional use section of the code as opposed to the normal variance. The first question is pursuant to Athens City Code section 230702A and 230702E1. The proposed conditional use is to be located in a zone wherein such use may be conditionally permitted. And I believe this is a straight yes. It is within a zone that it can be permitted. Any objections?
Nope.
Pursuant to section 230702E2, the conditional use is considered as an individual case. We are considering this individually, not in relationship to other cases in the past, in the future, setting precedent.
Okay.
Okay. Pursuant to section 230702A and 230702E3A, the conditional use complies with all applicable city regulations. Director Ellison, can you confirm that? Pursuant to ACC 2302, or 0702A and 230703 E3B, the conditional use will be of such size and character that it will be generally in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of this zone.
They're definitely willing to go the extra mile to make sure that they're appeasing their neighbors.
They've cleaned up the house
Yeah.
from what was previously problematic, so that suggests that, I think.
All the neighbors got their cell phone.
Yeah, they make it so everyone can get hold of them. That's a yes.
And generally in harmony with the development of this neighborhood and zone.
Yeah. Am I wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry that I have to take notes on this, but I do. Pursuant to ACC 230703 E3B, the conditional use will not be detrimental to the orderly development of adjacent properties nor inconsistent with the city comprehensive plan. I think this is generally a sticky one for us.
Yeah. So that plan is fairly, I can't say it's new anymore. It's what, 3-4 years?
I think the question is whether there is a detriment to the orderly development of adjacent properties, right? I don't feel that this is particularly inconsistent with the city's comprehensive plan, although we do, I think, I do have a question as to the impact on long-term housing availability in the city, that short-term rentals as a class have an impact.
Yeah.
Particularly in Athens close-in neighborhoods that have a
R1s.
lack of availability.
Yep.
Does anybody have any thoughts on how we kind of
Of what we're seeing,
statement of what we're seeing here?
I'm slightly concerned the fact that they never even considered it as a regular rental. I find that slightly concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a strong like line between short-term and longer-term rental as to it affects the kind of orderly development of the adjacent properties.
Yeah, I mean, as far as this, I'm talking about it just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any impact on the orderly development of the adjacent properties.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
No.
Inconsistency with the city comprehensive plan.
I think there is. I mean, it's clear.
It's clearly going against what
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
asking for.
And the planning commission's, soon to be probably, the city's moving in a direction of trying to make more single-family homes available, not fewer.
Right. And again, the issue that they seem to be putting on this would be a city council issue as opposed to necessarily us.
Exactly.
They bought a house in a zone knowing what it was. You can still subjugate expenses by renting it out. And so the fact that it wasn't even considered, we want it on our terms.
Yeah, I think generally, yes, I think that we can't kind of prescribe what people consider or don't consider,
Right.
but we can say whether it impacts the kind of city comprehensive plan or
Yeah.
or
yeah,
not.
fair enough. Fair enough.
I think.
Fair enough. That's a good point.
And the plan the city put out originally had all these disclaimers in sections and zones for a particular reason.
Sure. I mean, State Street's a very busy street where they are.
That's why particular zones on
It's a
that
very
initial
busy street.
planning.
Yeah.
So is our finding here that taking a house out of circulation in a close-in residential neighborhood in this scenario seems at best questionable in regards to the city comprehensive plan?
I would say
Yes.
that's
Yes.
questionable, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were defiant by any means.
Yeah.
I think they were hopeful. Yeah, I think nothing, yeah.
Sorry. A couple more of these, folks. Okay. Okay, this is the complex one.
Yeah.
Pursuant to ACC 230702, upon making an affirmative finding in writing that the proposed conditional use is to be located in a zone wherein such use may be conditionally permitted, that all conditionals for approval of such use in such zone have been met, that such use shall not result in significant negative impacts upon or conflict with surrounding use. The BZA shall direct the zoning administrator to issue additional conditional use permit for such use, which shall list all conditions and safeguards specified by the BZA for approval. In granting approval for any conditional use, the BZA may prescribe appropriate conditions and safeguards.
In our motion.
So, do we have any suggested conditional conditions or safeguards that would be like by way of making this able to be approved or affirmed by the board?
Can't think of anything. I mean, I said the thing about the phone numbers. They're willing to do
That's
that.
about the-
I mean, that's nothing.
Only safeguard that it is for that is neighbors being able to contact them, but
Do we have exterior monitoring system? Interior is not allowed by for privacy, but exterior monitoring.
I don't know. I mean, isn't that a
surveillance cameras, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
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 Exterior
Property,
surveillance,
yeah.
not interior.
Right. That would that appease any of you?
Yeah.
I think other friends that have Airbnbs that they might rent when they're like out of town.
Yeah, no, sure.
I think that's a pretty common one.
You're
And we
driving.
can-
You're driving the ship today.
Yeah, I mean, we can put that under provision
Sure.
for the
Yeah.
variance.
Director Allison, is that an acceptable safeguard, is to request a exterior surveillance system for the
I don't know why it wouldn't be. You guys are allowed to put conditions on if you want to require some type of a video system on the exterior. I don't know what the concern would be.
Okay.
Is there any way to address the concern that if, even if they have no intent to sell the house now, if they do sell the house, then that short-term rental conditional use would carry through to the new owner who may not be as...
And we had to put that in the variance too. That would have to be that
Right,
variance.
and that would have to be included
Well,
in the
I think
writing.
that's a
I don't know
question.
if it is.
Director Allison, is that something that we can include as a safeguard?
You could include that as a condition
So the variance
That if
goes if they sell it.
or not. I want to.
Yeah.
I want to clarify.
Okay.
One thing first is we're not looking at variances tonight.
Yeah.
We're looking at conditional
Conditional use.
uses tonight
Okay, yes.
because they are not the same thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So conditional uses allow for a little more leeway to put restrictions on things.
Okay.
And so, can you guide us in how we might state a condition such as, around, transference of property?
You could say that. Upon new ownership, they would need to reapply for a conditional use.
Is that something that you guys would be?
That sounds like a great idea.
Is a exterior monitoring and perhaps additionally actually noise monitoring something that you would
I
be?
didn't mention it. We had heard about the noise monitors. We have a ring system at our home anyway, so it wouldn't be difficult to add on another system.
Any other thoughts from the board as far as conditions? I think generally, like conveyance of, across owners is one of the biggest, worries I have as a board granting conditional use.
Yeah.
That's appeasing. If that's appeasing you, make them put it in.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so noise level and remote video monitoring for the exterior. reapplication upon conveyance to a new owner. Anything else that we as a board would like to add as a condition?
Much more.
I don't think there's anything really else practicable.
Yeah.
That would be reasonable to expect people to do. I think that, I don't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to write those down then real quick, and then I will need a motion to approve.
All right.
Anyway.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, hold up
Right,
until
once you write it down.
because then I'm going to let you.
Yep.
I would recommend reading the stipulations into
Yes,
the motion.
with the motion,
For
yes.
sure.
Yep.
That's why I was going to write them down first. Let's see.
So the biggest thing is that the new owners have to come back to get them. Conditional use.
Your daughter has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought it was a clown nose. That's really your nose?
She fell.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I'm just trying to be silly. You are doing very well for a concerned mom. You definitely have our sympathies. On a personal level, we would tell all of you that we love that people
Remote monitoring.
want the betterment of the community and want to contribute. This isn't what we do, though. I gotta make sure that you're covering all the bases with which we need to see if this is something we would allow. But your kid's doing really good. How old is she?
I'm sorry?
How old is she?
She actually just turned 3 last week. Homecoming weekend was her birthday party.
The terrible twos is a lie. It's 3.
Yeah. She's been really good though so far with everything.
Well, I mean, she just turned 3. You got 50 some odd more weeks to figure that out. But very, very well behaved.
Now you wish you typed it. Because you got to type it now again anyway.
Somebody else's
You can go back and watch the video.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Yep. I got it. Okay. So I can read all that into the condition. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think that you read.
Yep. Yep. So you got to make the motion.
So you make the motion. I
All right.
can't.
I would like to make a motion to grant a conditional use permit in accordance with ACC 23.04.01C3 to allow a non-owner occupied short-term rental in R1 zone at 206 East State Street in Athens, Ohio, with the conditions of adding an external video monitoring system that support remote monitoring, adding a sound level sensing system that will alert you if noise, and if the property is sold, a reapplication for conditional use need to be applied for the new owners. So this conditional use will not follow the property if it is sold or the title is changed from your hands to a new owner.
Second.
That's everything.
You can second.
I'll second.
There you go. He's on the board.
Second from Shay Myers.
There you go.
Director Allison, is this all
Looks
kosher
good
from
to
your
me.
perspective?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so now it's time for a vote. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Unfortunately, I cannot grant your application. Thank you for your time.
Are we allowed any feedback?
Not at this time, but you're welcome to talk to the Director Allison or Director Riggs. You're welcome to have a copy of the findings of fact.
last month.
Then we have to look at the
Okay.
minutes. But the problem,
Only other,
there's three of you. Were you all here last?
I was,
Last
yeah.
one? Paul?
yeah,
I think,
I was here.
yeah.
yeah, I was.
Okay, so you can vote
So
on it.
disposition of minutes from August 13th, 2024. We did not have a meeting in September.
Right.
Make a motion to approve the minutes
Yeah,
from
so-
August 13th.
You're making.
I'm making a motion to approve the minutes from August 13th.
Seconded.
Okay. All present at that meeting and are in favor of approving, raise your right
Aye.
hand. Aye. We have approved minutes, and I will call the meeting to a close. Thanks for your time.